With over 1 million professional members, the Internet Marketing Association is a force to be reckoned with. This is I Am a Leader, the official podcast of the world's largest association of Internet marketers. Join Dominic Sirianni, CMO, as he sits down with inspirational leaders, delves into the research lab, shares career opportunities from IMA partners like Microsoft, Oracle, and Adobe, and gives you the insights you need to perform at your best. Here's your host, Dominic Sirianni.
Welcome to today's webinar. We will go ahead and get started. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce Mr. Sinan Kanatsis, the founder and chairman of the Internet Marketing Association. Sinan?
Hello. Thank you, Dom. I'm so excited to facilitate today's webinar and act as moderator. Having done so many webinars in my career, I have to say this is one that I'm personally looking forward to. The advent of images in so many ways. If you think about how much is shared and searched on the internet, next to text and video, images is at the top, billions a day. So how do you monetize that? And what greater way to demonstrate that by having one of our great speakers, Mike Brown, here today to talk about that from his perspective with such a large following on Instagram. So what I'd like to do is kind of just welcome everyone today and, share the speakers panel with Curalete's CMO, Mr. Matt Longi, who is on the line here today. Matt is a pioneer in digital marketing, a trendsetter, and truly someone we're proud to have on our board at the Internet Marketing Association. Having been the chairman of the IMA for the last 12 years, I can tell you that the need and the thirst and the hunger of professionals all around the world in understanding how digital marketing is changing, where the opportunities are. There's sort of an endless opportunity, that Matt is doing such a great job filling. So we're also joined by Mike Brown, who I mentioned just a moment ago, founder and CEO of Mod Bargains. As you will learn today, Mike and his team fully leverage digital images of cars, trucks, people, and curated images to build a highly engaged audience. We're talking about thousands of interactions across multiple channels. Just by way of background, the IMA is one of the world's largest professional associations with over 1 million professional members, 1,000 members of our International Executive Council, 500 members of our Women Leaders Group, as well as 200 groups that have been formed all around the world. If you're interested in the IMA, please feel free to follow up with myself after this webinar. Our members are practitioners of the latest technologies and techniques used to drive engagement and revenue from digital imagery. Next week, we'll embark on our Impact 16 conference in the Cayman Islands. This is basically our East Coast version of what we do every year in Las Vegas, which is our West Coast conference called Impact. So basically, business leaders across multiple industries will be together to engage in continued discussions around topics like how to best leverage images to drive higher engagement and revenue. The consumers of today are creating and absorbing more visual content than ever before, on their phones, computers, as they walk down the street and see billboards. Today alone, more than 2.6 billion images will be shared across the social web. Because of this, the way consumers discover new brands and products has changed. There's no doubt that images are the new language of consumer engagement and brand discovery. Last year, Curalete commissioned the IME to conduct a survey on the state of visual marketing and commerce. We found that 77% of marketers agree that there is an increasing pressure to show return on investment on visual content. But they're struggling to do so. Only 7% of marketers reported that they feel their visual content strategy is successfully supporting their overarching marketing goals. They also shared with us top 3 barriers keeping them from reaching success in the space. They stated that the 3 biggest challenges in executing an effective visual commerce strategy were choosing imagery that resonates with audiences, developing new creative content, and measuring ROI. We're here today to delve deeper into these areas and to help you determine how you can start showing the ROI on your visual content efforts. As mentioned, we have Matt Longi, CMO of Curalete, and Mike Brown, co-founder and CEO of Mod Bargains, a vehicle enhancement and modifications brand. So let's get started. What can marketers do to develop new creative content? I think we should start off with Matt to answer that question first.
Great, thanks, Sinan. Yeah, appreciate to handle that. And again, thanks everyone for joining. At Curate, the number one that we're seeing from the well over 800 brands that we work with is that they're curating their content. So they're not just relying on traditional stock photos like what you see here on the far left. Typically, these are the products you'll see on a white background. And while those are great for conveying accuracy, they're not nearly as engaging as authentic or editorial style photos. So what we're seeing is more and more brands are taking their own editorial style photos. As you see in that second one from the left, they're harnessing photos from fans with the fan permission, of course. They're sourcing photos from partners. They're working with bloggers and influencers to create content for the brand. So by taking advantage of all these resources available to them, the brands are amassing, really massive libraries of visual content that are all different, but also all very representative of the brand's lifestyle, as you can kind of see here from these shots. On the next slide here, we do have a great example of a brand that's doing this incredibly well on Instagram. This is Forever 21, and they're seeing very strong positive results from engaging in this strategy. So the brand has a huge following, and they're known for their aspirational photos. These are essentially a collection of photos from fans and bloggers and partners and their very own shots. So the photo on the top that you see here, this is actually shared by a fashion blogger, while the one on the bottom was created by the Forever 21 team. Because these photos are getting so much engagement on Instagram, what they've done is they've added a link to their profile bio, which is that sole link on Instagram, to essentially transport their followers to a shoppable Instagram feed. So as a result, they're now seeing a 38% increase in outbound clicks, an 80% click-through rate from their shoppable feed to their product pages, and a 24% increase in time spent on site versus their average mobile user. So really exciting results that they're seeing from taking this curated strategy and engaging their audiences with these great photos.
Thanks, Matt. Let's take it to Mike. What is Modmargins doing to create new content, Mike?
Thanks, Sinan. In the automotive space, we have a very visual, relatable content. So in our platform, so we're, in addition to sourcing photos from fans and sharing our own content, we're paying really close attention to trending memes and quotes in the automotive space, things that our vastly young demographic of automotive enthusiasts will find humorous, funny, useful, engaging. Our Instagram feed is a collection of before and after photos of cars we've modified, authentic photos of people enjoying themselves at our events that we host locally or that we sponsor and attend, as well as memes with relatable sayings or quotes from famous drivers or automotive personalities. And you can see some of those examples. I mean, the top left is an example of before and after of a lowering kit on a vehicle that made a huge difference. And obviously by being able to show that visually, it really paints a picture. Then you've got this funny when you downshift in a tunnel, as well as a quote from Michael Schumacher, who's a famous Formula One driver.
Great. Let's move on to our next question. How can marketers ensure that their content will resonate with followers? Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great question, Sina. And so one of the things that we find is it's really important for marketers to track the data effectively. So here's one example of how you can do it on Instagram. You can start by designating a community manager to track Instagram activity and respond to high-value comments and questions. So you can try searching for specific keywords and phrases such as love or wear and buy, essentially to identify rich engagements about your products, and then reach out and engage those fans to drive interests and transactions. As we've also seen on the next slide here, we've seen another brand that we work with, Lilly Pulitzer. Lilly Pulitzer has done some great work in analyzing their visual data. So the brand used their visual data to optimize their digital ads. And what they actually saw was a 50% increase in click-through rate going from, again, Instagram back to their shopping site. So they also began placing their top performing pins from Pinterest in emails, and as a result of that, they saw a boost in open rates and clicks. Another cool thing that Lilly Pulitzer did was that they saw just how much engagement these 5x5 prints that they were sharing on Instagram was driving in terms of likes and comments. So what they did is actually created a book of these 5x5 prints, which became a massive hit, actually sold out during the Christmas holiday season that they released it. So not only did the Lilly Pulitzer team use their visual data to drive action on their site, they also used it to create an entirely new product, which ended up selling out. So a really great story there.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. How about you, Mike? How are you making sure that your photos will resonate with all of your fans?
Well, at Mod Bargains, I'd say that we pay very, very close attention to every post that we make. You know, we're a relatively small company, and that gives us the flexibility to adjust very quickly. And we have a weekly meeting where all of us are together in a room, really studying analytics on each of these posts. And you know, something unique about Mod Bargains is that about 50% of our employees were former fans and customers of our brand. So just by nature, they get it. Our blog, for example, is very image focused, and it's run by someone who understands the space, multiple people that understand the space because they were passionate about it long before they joined our company. So, you know, because our employees continue to be passionate about cars and modifications such as wheels, suspension, exhaust systems, things that they're interested in doing on their own cars, they're constantly engaging with other fans and just continue to learn about what works and what doesn't. This strategy isn't necessarily unique to Mod Bargains, though. I mean, think about Apple. When you think about an Apple store, pretty much everyone that works there was a huge advocate of the brand before they joined that team. So whenever you interact with an Apple employee, you can tell that they're knowledgeable about the space and the products that they sell. That's exactly what we do at Mod Bargains as well. We're all experts, or as Apple calls them, geniuses.
Oh, fantastic. Just as a reminder to all of our attendees, please feel free to use the Q&A tab to ask any questions that come to mind to both Mike or Matt, and we'll be sure to address them at today's conclusion. So on to our final question. How can marketers effectively measure the ROI on images? Matt?
Yeah, that's another great question. We hear this question all the time. In fact, one of the ways I like to spin this is it's ROI is no longer just return on investment, it's return on image. Because marketers are investing so much in imagery that there is now an expectation of what you can drive from your return on this imagery. So the most effective way that we've seen for a number of the brands that we work with to connect their visual content is connecting that content to products. So there's so much different content out there on a variety of channels, be it email or digital ads or social, what have you. You know, the customers of today are accustomed to getting information about the things that they want instantly. So brands need to find a way to make all their photos actionable in some way. So next slide here, what we'll see here is an example from one of another great brands that we work with, Urban Outfitters. So Urban Outfitters noticed that they were receiving a lot of content from their fans. So this was people, you know, they love showing off their purchases. So the UO team started asking those fans if they could share their photos. Of course, most of their customers, you know, well over 90% are thrilled to receive that kind of request from a big brand. And we've seen this in the Curate data time and time again, anywhere from 80 to 90% of the time. The end consumer gives the brand permission because the brand is celebrating them, and frankly, the consumer, the fans feel like they're rock stars. You know, hey, here's Urban Outfitters asking me for permission. This is fantastic. So what Urban Outfitters did is they integrated all those images they were receiving from fans into an e-commerce experience. So they now have a gallery of UGC or user-generated content images on a dedicated page, and these UGC images go directly to those product pages. So they've seen incredible engagement as a result of this. So they're collecting nearly 200 user images every day. They're, as a result of fully integrating this into an e-commerce experience. And as a result, the UGC gallery on site has a 15% click-through rate to the product pages. So really fantastic way of capturing or harnessing those fans who are celebrating your brand and turning them, turning that opportunity into driving commerce.
Great. How about you, Mike? How are you measuring ROI on images?
Well, I mean, for us, we know for sure that there is a massive ROI for us on images and the content that we generate. Because we actually do installations on vehicles as well, and we were able to do that inside of our own facility, we get a lot of really powerful before and after pictures and just amazing photography of the modifications that we did on cars in action. So, but in terms of measuring direct ROI on campaigns and such, you know, again, we're that small business out there that is really trying to do our best to reach as many customers and then handle the influx into our pipeline. So I always use this analogy that, like, there's a bunch of oil derricks out in the field, and Facebook is one of those, Instagram is another, Snapchat is one, we have our blog, we've got car shows and local events. All of those oil derricks feed into a main oil pipeline, and then we need to convert on those leads. And that's really the structure of our company. We struggle to understand exactly which one is doing what at a given time. We've tried things like coupon codes to track specific campaigns, but for us, coupon codes are pretty expensive because we're not operating on the hugest of margins. So one of our big priorities right now is to revamp our CRM system to get a better idea of where our customers are coming from. And really that comes down to asking them questions at various touch points to understand how they found out about us. Again, it's challenging because so many of our modification experts or our internal sales team, they're creating their own pipeline as well. They're their own personalities. They're experts in the field. They build amazing cars that get, you know, almost as many followers as we have as a company on our own page. And they bring their own customers in with them if they're doing, you know, marketing from them living the brand. But mainly, we make it a point to ask where people learned about us and if they've interacted with us on any of these visual platforms, and then we pay attention to it and track the analytics in terms of engagement numbers and in terms of click-throughs to the website. Of course, we have Google Analytics on the site and really study you know, where people are coming from. It's just tracking it all the way down into a conversion, into a transaction is where it becomes very, very challenging for us and other brands.
And it shows you've got 38,000 followers on Instagram. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
Maybe just in conclusion, Mike, for our audience of digital marketers, is there any magic to that growth? I know there's lots of strategies, but what's been the success in getting to that sort of following?
Really, I think it's just about being authentic to the brand, having content that is engaging and makes people want to continue to stay connected with you, not spamming it with retail content. We like to have a balance between things that seem like we're trying to convert into a transaction, educational content about, like, hey, did you know that this modification on your vehicle has these challenges or these benefits? And really just, if we get followers, we want to keep them and not burn through them. We're not that, like, slash and burn mentality. We haven't spent a lot of money acquiring these followers. It's mainly organic. Of course, in, you know, order confirmation and shipping emails, we like to push people towards connecting with us on social, and really just become a valuable contributor to their life experience as an automotive enthusiast and be relevant.
Great. Well, continued success. Mike, thank you very much for concluding your points here today. So let's talk about some takeaways from today's webinar. One would be source content from trustworthy mediums, whether they're influencers, partners, trending topics online, or consumers, customers, with proper permission, of course. But we usually will do is make just a little reference to where that content came from in a social post. The second would be harness quantitative and qualitative data to ensure that your visual content will resonate with audiences. And then the third would be productize your imagery so you can effectively measure return on investment. So there's some key takeaways, and what we will do is send a recording of this webinar to everyone, and at this time we would like to go into our Q&A session. So we've covered a lot of great content here today, and I strongly encourage, we've got a lot of people online here, to utilize Q&A to reach out to either Mike or Matt at this time. And Dom, I'll let you go ahead and facilitate any of those questions that come in.
Thank you, Sinan, and thank you to the audience. There are a lot of great questions coming in. So the first one comes from Simon. Simon, social channels you ask, social channels are now heavily dominated by video content, and Simon is interested, Matt, specifically in your opinion on the correlation between photo images and video content during the online buying journey.
Yeah, that's a great question. We're certainly seeing video increase in its interest in with a number of the businesses, the brands that we work with. I think the challenge, though, is that frankly, the technology, the data, the measurement is still not quite there yet. Video certainly is a prevalent form of communication with consumers. However, it's frankly dwarfed by imagery. The imagery, as Sinan mentioned, the head of the webinar here, 2.8 billion images every single day is being put up online from consumers across a variety of channels. So what imagery represents is a really significant, still imagery represents a very significant opportunity for engaging the consumer, driving behavior, which would be, engagement, traffic, and then ultimately revenue. Frankly, we're not quite seeing it there yet with video. That's a bit harder challenge to solve, technologically speaking. Also, as a marketer, really trying to understand what in the video and what part of the video drove that level of engagement. Was it 12 seconds in or 24 seconds in? Should you build short form or long form video? I think there's a lot of great examples of businesses that have done well in leveraging video content. So I'm not discouraging the use of it. I'm just saying that there are certainly measurement and data challenges that go beyond what you can do with imagery. So that said, I think the key thing, and Mike had mentioned this earlier, the key thing that we're finding, irrespective of whether it's a video or still imagery, the key thing in engaging consumers is authenticity. As long as you're approaching the experience from an authentic point of view and not from a quote-unquote sales or marketing point of view, I think you can be very engaged with your audience. You'll be able to drive organic growth, as Mike has mentioned with Mod Bargains. We've seen that time and time again with the brands that we work with, both small and large. If you deliver an authentic experience, you'll have a highly engaged audience and consumer base. As soon as you start kind of crossing that line of being too salesy, whether it's again with video content or still imagery, I think you'll find some challenges.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah,
Mike?
I can certainly add to that. In terms of being too salesy, I literally get pushback on a regular basis from my marketing team. So I'm not the one that is posting, of course. And when I tell them, hey, we've got this promotion on Michelin Pilot Supersport tires, for example, they're like, well, that's not going to get very high engagement. And I'll have to basically say, well, we need to mix in at least some things that have revenue generating opportunities for us, not just memes and engaging content. One way that we've mixed video with images is on Instagram. There's some really easy to use apps where you can do 50-50 splits or whatever ratio you want of a still image with a video playing on the other half of the image. So an exhaust system would be a great example for us. You can take a still image of the exhaust tips installed on an M3, and then the bottom half of that Instagram post could be a video of that car driving away so you can hear the sound of it. And we found that those types of posts of mixing images with video can be very effective. And we have to be aware of where are people using these social media platforms. If they're on their phone, they might be somewhere where they can't necessarily use audio, so they might just skip over video because they're sitting somewhere where they don't want to disturb the person sitting next to them. And that's why I think still image content has higher engagement. It's just because people are more comfortable interacting with it and paying attention to it where they're at on their phones.
Yeah, Mike, that's a great question or a great point I'd like to add to, which is back to video versus still imagery, just the level of engagement required by the consumer. Oftentimes with video, there is audio associated with it, so that automatically means that there's a level of engagement that you have to invest as a consumer. You're trying to learn what's being expressed through that video. In many cases, you don't have that capability or that opportunity to engage with video as you can with imagery. And in fact, this is also borne out by the data and the growth of the various networks. If you look back at 2014, the 3 fastest growing online networks on the internet were Pinterest, Instagram, and Tumblr. And when we looked at that data and we looked at that growth, really what was driving it was not necessarily that they were social channels, but more that they were image or visual content driven channels and platforms. So this idea that video is certainly an engaging medium, but it's far easier for a consumer to check out Instagram and flip through photos by thumbing through them, and you can drive a really high level engagement with that as well. So really interesting dynamics that you see when you look at, again, that level of authenticity, that non-salesy approach in driving that. The other point I wanted to make, that Mike, you were alluding to as well, which is, at the end of the day, you have a business. You're trying to drive revenue, trying to drive profitability. So you have to find what's that right balance, that right mix between an authentic experience you're trying to deliver and selling a product at the end of the day. We've seen some really good examples of some of the brands that we work with that through their Instagram feed, they mix, using the Curate Like to Buy product, they mix both links to product sales as well as links to online content like a blog post. Maybe it's a fan or a follower or an influencer that they link to. So what they're doing from their Like to Buy gallery is not only linking products to the PDP, the product display page. In other examples, they're linking images to blog posts or other online content. So what it does is it mixes up that, hey, everything is a sale, to here's a mix of things that I can buy, to a mix of things that I can learn or experiences I can engage with. And we've seen really, really great results from that.
There's a question here from Haley that I think is good for both of you. How can brands receive higher quality and higher volume of user-generated content imagery?
Yeah, Dom, let me start with that, and then Mike, love to hear your perspective. We shared an example of Urban Outfitters, and they did just that. What was happening was that Urban Outfitters, they have a hashtag, which is a hashtag UO on you. So it's the letter U, the letter O, and then on you, ONYOU. UO on you, that hashtag generates anywhere from 100 to 200 Instagram photos per day. Essentially what they've done through that process of soliciting and incorporating user-generated content onto their fan reel gallery. Fan reel is another Curate solution. It's a gallery of UGC content. Through that process of selecting and curating that content, essentially what they've done is they've taught their audience, their consumers, the style and the type of imagery or photographs that they're looking for. So and you can now see that. So if you go to Urban Outfitters and the UO community page, what you'll see is a wide variety and a mix of photographs. Some of them actually came from Urban Outfitters. Some of them came from their fans. At the end of the day, in some cases, you can't tell the difference. The fans are doing such a good job taking these amazing photographs. And what Urban Outfitters has done is essentially trained their audiences on how to do that by way of the imagery that they've been curating and selecting over the course of weeks and months. And now they're almost 2 years into this. And so by featuring the best of the best, the UGC that they really wanted to feature, and early on when they first started this, they had a lot of terrible photographs and a lot of terrible imagery they just didn't and couldn't use. But over time, what their fans have learned is, do a stylistic shot that looks like this, upload that using the UONU hashtag, and now Urban Outfitters is in a very unique position where they can be very selective, but they're getting a ton of great content that they can use based on essentially how they've trained their fans and their consumers to take those photographs.
Yeah, Matt, I think that's a very strong point, is when consumers and advocates of brands understand the quality level that the brand is looking for in order to get a share or an interaction with the brand that they love. I think that is extremely effective in creating high quality user content. And year over year over year, there's no doubt that as consumers have had more accessibility to higher quality camera technology even, the user-generated content has become so good compared to what it used to be. And now we've gone from, pictures on iPhone 1 to what it is now on, everybody's got some sort of HDR camera, it seems like, and going around to car shows. In 2016, the number of people that have like really nice cameras at events versus what it was in 2010 even, it's crazy how many people I can't tell who the professional photographers and who the amateur photographers are anymore at these car shows. And there's literally hundreds of them. And I'm just looking at it like, how do I get access to all these people that are taking pictures of my vehicles on display at my booth at these large car shows? So for us, I mean, I try to have dialogues with as many people that are taking pictures as possible and ask them, hey, can you send me pictures? Can you interact with us? Like, what do you do? And create relationships with photographers that are going to all these events, because for us, it's truly a way for us to gather content at a very low cost. And it's literally as simple as saying, here's my business card, please go ahead and email me some of the photos. And they do. I mean, they're taking pictures for a reason. It's because they want them to get shared, and they see that we're a large platform for them. And I say, feel free to throw your photographer watermark on there so you get credit for the picture. All photographers usually want credit for their imagery. It's actually a very touchy topic for photographers. If you take their content and you don't have permission to do so, you'll get blasted without a doubt. So we like to make sure, hey, give yourself credit, and then we can share it. And we take this really high quality, cheap content to acquire, much cheaper than us paying our own guys to do it. And it creates this pipeline of photography that we can actually share and get engagement with.
Yeah, Mike, that's one thing I definitely stress is that permission or that rights management aspect of using user-generated content. So that's something that we've actually built into our FanReel product, where there's an automated rights management capability built into that. So it's really, really critical that if you're going to be leveraging user-generated content, you want to give attribution and credit to where it comes from, as well as, first access or gain permission. So we've made that really simple, really easy. It's just a couple of clicks to gain that permission. You can automate that as well. That's what Urban Outfitters is doing, and a number of other brands that work with us and our FanReel products. So definitely strongly encourage, you don't want to be, smurfing someone else's photos and putting them in your own feed and taking credit for them. You want to give credit where it's due and make sure that you're asking permission of those consumers.
Gentlemen, Cigar wants to know, when you build images, is the major focus on the product or on the target audience?
I think for us, it's one and the same, because our, if you talk about our target audience, for us, the vast majority of our consumers are males, male car enthusiasts between the age of 18 to 35. And we have a very, very specific target there. And they love the products. So I think for us, our target audience only gets excited about the content if it makes the product look amazing. And we want to make sure that we're representing the brands that we're a retailer for, that we're an installation facility for, in a way that adds to the value of it. So we really want to create that high value content. And I hope this is answering that question effectively. But for sure, it's on the product, but that relates so emotionally to our target audience that it's almost one and the same.
Yeah, Mike, that's a great point. I agree. I think, again, it goes to the level of authenticity. So when you say featuring a product, oftentimes what we hear, what that means is, do I have my standard accurate product shot, which is typically product on a white background? Now, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when e-commerce was really first getting started and getting going, that was important to the end consumer, because you had to convey accuracy. When we were buying things online, there wasn't a whole lot of trust built in with a number of the vendors and the retailers online. Today, what consumers frankly are looking for is authenticity. So one example, I found this really interesting. We have another brand that we work with called the Grommet, and the Grommet sells essentially it's gadgets, little gadgets like a pocket tool you can stick in your wallet and put in your back pocket. What they actually found was that their old, quote unquote standard product shots were not converting nearly as high as these authentic photographs. What they actually found was that when they show the products in light of how a consumer would use it, meaning when there's hands in the photograph, actually someone holding the little gadget, the conversion rates were much, much higher than if the gadget would just kind of laid out on a table or on the white background. Point being is that you're connecting directly with the consumer, because you're showing the gadget how that end consumer, how that purchaser would actually use that product. And so what they've done is they've basically connected a product shot with the consumer, with the target audience that they're trying to hit and target for that sale, brought those two together, and now they're developing and delivering very authentic experiences that are then in turn driving much higher levels of conversion rates and frankly much higher levels of revenue and product sales.
And Sherry is asking us to follow up or talk more about shoppable Instagram feeds. How exactly does that work?
Yeah, I'll start there, Dom. And shoppable Instagram really was first innovated by Curate. So this is a product that we launched about 2 years ago. It's called Like to Buy. Essentially, the way it works is if you're familiar with Instagram, there's only a single link on Instagram that takes you off the site, whether you're on the app or you're on the full-blown web browser, PC experience, if you will. What Like to Buy does is it replaces that link, or essentially takes over that link and drives the consumer to a shoppable experience. So for many of the brands that we work with, like Nordstrom or Urban Outfitters or Lilly Pulitzer, any of these brands using Like to Buy, well, what they're actually doing is that link up at the top, that bio link, we essentially take that over for them. The first link that you go to, you're essentially going to a Like to Buy gallery. All of the images in that gallery are shoppable. And that's made possible because we ingest, or we integrate with the e-commerce catalogs of the brands that we work with, so that every one of those images is connected to a PDP, a product display page. So for example, if you're on Nordstrom, the Nordstrom Instagram feed, you'll see that link up at the top says Like to Buy /Nordstrom. When you click that link, you will see a gallery of the shoes, the boots, the jackets, the sunglasses, whatever the products are that you saw on Instagram, almost mimic or copied in that Like to Buy gallery. That Like to Buy gallery, every one of those photographs is shoppable. So when you click on that photograph of those shoes or those boots, you're taken directly to the product display page, the page where you can buy that actual product. As a result, what we've seen is some very significant click-through rates and engagement. So for example, Sigma Beauty is a cosmetics manufacturer, using the Like to Buy product. Within 30 days of launching, they drove 24,000 outbound clicks from Instagram through Like to Buy to their product pages. And with Like to Buy, Instagram is now their 4th highest traffic generator to sigmabeauty.com. So it's a really successful strategy and technology to make Instagram shoppable and drive revenue directly from, frankly, what Instagram is typically it's not been a revenue generating platform for consumer brands, retail brands, and it now is through Like to Buy.
Dom, or on Matt, I can certainly comment on that, because I'm checking it out right now on my phone, and that is a problem solver for us here at Mod Bargains, because as Matt was just saying, there's a pipeline problem there, because you've generated an interaction with a like or a comment, or even them tagging one of their friends that they think might want to buy this product, but then there's very low pipeline efficiency to get them from that oil derrick of Instagram into the sales pipeline of the organization here at Mod Bargains. So Matt, I think you might have just created a new customer in me by sharing that on this webinar, because that is huge and amazing technology as I'm looking at this on my phone, where you can actually get in there and see these exact products in order of how they were featured on the Instagram feed. So I think that is fantastic.
Cool.
And you're getting an equal amount of enthusiasm from Cherie, who originally asked the question, who thinks that is just a very cool technology.
Great.
Next question.
And Dom, anyone who has questions about this, feel free. You can reach us, curelate.com. We'll get folks that'll take care of you if anyone's interested in Like to Buy. It's worked extremely well. We have hundreds and hundreds of brands using it. All of them have great success stories that we can share, and so love to be able to help anybody out with that.
Mike, if you call right now, please mute us so that we don't hear you reaching out on the webinar live.
I'm so excited about it. I can't wait.
Next question is from Jayan. Can you guys recommend a few good sites for sourcing quality images? And I think Jayan's talking about non-user generated content. Are there places that people can go to find top quality images that aren't that expensive?
I can start with this one. I don't have a whole lot to add here. I think that we get a lot of our top quality images passed through our manufacturers and our brands, and We've never really gone to like a third-party image like bucket type of company because our products are so specialized and so specific. So we're more asking questions to people that we feel are going to have that content and give it to us for free because they want us to sell their brands. So we're in a nice spot there because a wheel company that wants us to sell their wheels can give us some amazing photography that they've already done professionally, or a suspension company can do the same. So we're fairly fortunate there to be able to have some amazing graphic content that is force-fed to us because it's a win-win scenario. So I don't have a whole lot more to add other than that.
Yeah, I'd say, Mike, to your point there, I think for whatever brand or whatever products that you sell, not knowing the context of who's asking the question, I think, again, you've been hearing this word authenticity. Frankly, I think if you're using kind of the quote-unquote stock photography that a number of the image sites share, frankly, I think you're missing an opportunity to convey that authenticity. So the next question you'd probably ask is, well, how do I get these photographs? Well, if you have any followers, any fans, any bloggers that you work with, any influencers, just simply start reaching out to them. It could be as simple as sending an email. If you become more sophisticated and this is a bigger process that you want to incorporate into your business, we can certainly help here at Curelate. FanReel is the product I mentioned that Urban Outfitters is using, and it works both with very large brands and small brands as well. But the point being is that it creates an opportunity for you to capture that authentic level of imagery from the consumer, from influencers, from bloggers, whomever. If you're looking for something that may not be as directly connected to your brand and the products you sell, we partner with a company called 2020. So it's the word 20 with the number 20, 2020.com. So they have a number of kind of license-free, authentic, original photography that you could use in your marketing. And we've actually done a webinar with them as well. So they've got I think something like 50 million photos that you can access. They work with 300,000 different photographers across 200 or 150 countries. So another good source there. But I'd recommend trying to understand, what is your strategy? What are you trying to do with the imagery? And if it is to convey that authentic experience, I definitely and strongly recommend try and start first with your fans, your followers, and your customers.
We have a question from Brian, and I'm going to unmute him so that he can ask this directly. Brian, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I was wanting to know if when dealing with a consumer from a brand, and a brand okays or a fan okays that they're going to work jointly to pass content, are you able to measure the parent-child relationship and understand the downline of the influencer or advocate? And if so, are you able to put a hard dollar value that the person drove in as having influence for a brand, and measure also the effectiveness of a channel against another? And if so, are you able to deliver a coupon, say a scratch off, in a format where it's measurable, like you're shoppable, but is actually sent through an email?
Yeah, Brian, this is Matt. Great questions. I hear a number of them in there. Let me see if I can unpack this a little bit. So I think one of the questions you're asking is, how do we measure the return on the investment of that imagery we're bringing in from a consumer or an influencer, a blogger, what have you? That's actually something we enable in the Curelate platform itself. So the Curelate Visual Commerce platform includes a dashboard and analytics capability that helps you measure the performance of how a particular image is performing as far as driving traffic and revenue. We integrate and connect into the various analytics platforms that are out there, so Google Analytics, Adobe Analytics, etc. So essentially what we can start to help you understand, the insights we can deliver is, hey, we captured this image from a consumer, we included it in an email campaign, we saw these click-through rates in our analytics from that, which then in turn drove X amount of engagement or even revenue. So closing that loop on the image that we source to how that image is performing is something a number of the brands that we work with are doing every day within the Curelate Visual Commerce platform. As far as rewarding the consumers, in many cases, you don't need to you don't need to issue or deliver a scratch off or any kind of incentive. In some cases, at least with the end consumer, they're big enough fans that they'll share this content readily and freely. And that's what we're seeing with the brands like Urban Outfitters. And again, you know it's a large brand. They have a massive following. But we're seeing this with smaller brands as well. Another brand that we work with, a company called Suja Juice, S-U-J-A, Suja Juice, has done some great things through like to buy and capturing some of their fans' content and integrating that into Facebook and Instagram and other channels. Again, and frankly, what it ended up doing is Like to Buy ended up becoming their #1 mobile referral site for online purchases. Again, it's about delivering that authenticity. In many cases, again, you don't need to monetize, or you don't need to, I should say, monetarily compensate the end consumer for that. And I think Mike could probably share the same thing. Sometimes you just have, you know, what I would call a fanboys. They love your company, they love your products, they love what you do. You know, Apple is very, very well known for that. They don't really need to pay bloggers to say nice things about Apple products because they develop great experiences. I'd say Mike and you guys at Mod Bargains probably have similar experiences.
Absolutely. The biggest advocates of our brands are usually customers that have had a great interaction with us, bought their own modifications from us, and then really support us. And that when they deliver that photography or that content to us, they then have an emotional connection, an emotional buy-in into our brand. And I think that is a kind of a self-perpetuating cycle there of a win-win connection. There is one program that we developed that we softly use. I think we can do a much better job of marketing this, but we actually will pay for the first $100 of a semi-professional photo shoot of an automotive photographer taking one of our customers with a fully modified car out to a location with a great background setting and do a full photo shoot. Those usually cost somewhere between $200 to $400, so we're sponsoring the first $100 of that for the customer, who gets an amazing display of posterable pictures, desktop background images, that kind of stuff that for them lasts an entire lifetime of you know, bragging rights that, hey, my car was good enough to be in a professional photo shoot. So we've sponsored the first $100 of that. That's a direct return on investment for us because we get, you know, dozens of images that we can display on product listings and push through social. I've found that if we do things like that, it actually probably costs us more money to look at the direct analytics of, hey, how many click-throughs came through, and just the time spent on looking at all the different pipeline and funnels of how this campaign went is more expensive than just paying for the content up front in the form of a photo shoot. So I don't think very many companies do a good enough job of understanding how long it takes to analyze these things. And as they're sitting there analyzing, they're not doing more content. So we like to keep it as simple as possible on incentivization. And most, I'd say 99% of the content that comes to us is just because people had a great experience with us and want to support the automotive enthusiast community, share the content, make the process of deciding what modifications to buy for a car easier, less stressful, more confident for their fellow enthusiasts.
If we can pause for just a moment, Matt and Mike and Sinan, I'd like you guys to share the best contact information. We have a lot of questions coming in. I don't know that everyone will be able to stay to the end of the webinar. So if they want to reach out, if you can remind people how they can do that at this point, then we'll get on with the last few questions before we conclude.
Great. So Sinan, S-I-N-A-N at imanetwork.org. It's the best way to contact me, and I'll get back to you within a day. Matt?
Yeah, I've got a couple things I can share with you. If you want to reach out to us here at Curelate, you can give us a call. Our number is 855-223-1459, and we've got folks that can answer all these questions, frankly, much better than I can. And so that's certainly one way to reach us. The other way is at hello, H-E-L-L-O, at curelate.com, hello at curelate.com, and that'll get you right to folks that have far deeper understanding of how all the Curelate products and platform can work for your business. And frankly, I think that's the important point I would make here is every one of your businesses is a little bit different or very different. We'd want to make sure that our solutions line up exactly to where you can best need them and where you'd want to start, whether it's like to buy or a fan reel or a dashboard. So at the end of the day, we've got a number of folks that can help you directly with that. So hello@curelate.com or 855-223-1459.
For us at Mod Bargains, our phone number, if you're interested in getting any modifications for your vehicles or anything like that, or connecting with our marketing team, would be 714-582-3330. Or if you're interested for the same reasons, our email would be sales@modbargains.com. If you'd like to email me directly, it would be mike@modbargains.com.
Thanks, guys. So as we go into the last few minutes, there's a lot of interest around the Like to Buy campaign. So Matt, this question comes from Christiana. What size of a following is recommended to start a Like to Buy Curelate type service?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, if you only have a couple hundred followers, probably not the right investment for you yet. Generally speaking, we've seen brands starting somewhere around 10,000 followers and higher really be able to leverage this, again, because you have the volume of audience to really take advantage of Like to Buy. That said, though, we've seen frankly some very large brands that have very moderate or much smaller Instagram followings, and it's just something that they're looking to build up and grow. Like to Buy it's a very unique offering in the marketplace, in the industry. We've had hundreds of brands that have leveraged this to great success, and so if you want to learn more about that, you can check us out at curelate.com. We've got a whole set of pages on Like to Buy, or reach us the phone number or the email I shared with you, and we've got some experts that can really go through a number of really great examples that are directly relevant to your business.
Is there a best formula for the amount of imagery or content that will keep a client base engaged versus turned away? David's wondering about that balance.
Yeah, I'll start there, and Mike probably has some specific feedback as well. I think that is a balancing act of like, how do you not be too spammy in a way where you have imagery that you're posting every hour versus something that you're not posting nearly enough. So I think part of it is really understanding your audience, your consumers. I think over time, it takes time. You'll find what that right balance is, whether it's an image a day, an image a week, what have you, depending on how engaged your audience is, and frankly how large your audience is following you on Instagram. So I'd recommend, as in most things with digital marketing, there will be some experiments you'll have to run. 1 month or 1 quarter, you might want to run something with a lot higher frequency. You might want to A/B test that with maybe even another Instagram handle and do something with much lower frequency. But at the end of the day, it's really, I think you'll find and you'll strike that right balance with your audience of that level of frequency that you'll just have to really discover what they're comfortable with over a period of time.
Yeah, I think that for us it's somewhat seasonal, and you have to be relevant to the time of the year. So when we're looking at time periods like Black Friday and Cyber Monday, we are extremely promotion heavy. Reason being is that that's what people want right then. They want to know how they can save money, how they can take advantage of sales events to save money on the mods that they've been saving up for. Throughout the rest of the year, when it's like car show season, like now through, let's say, August, we're going to have a lot of amazing content from events, and that's going to be very image heavy on non-promotional but relevant things, which we still tie in to modifications people can do for their cars, because that's what we're taking photos of at these events, is nice wheels, nice lowered cars with carbon fiber exterior accents, etc. So we do a minimum of it's on average for about 20 to 30% what I would say revenue targeting posts, and then the rest of that needs to be high engagement, new follower acquisition, tag a friend, comment on this picture, tag this photo, or caption this photo, whatever it is, some sort of call to action to keep engagement at a high, and then mix in about 20 to 30% of direct revenue generating activities. But then during Black Friday and Cyber Monday, we're talking about 80 to 90% of that time period is here's a special deal. And we get lower engagement per post, but I don't care at that time of year. I just want to be relevant and help people save money.
Do you have any suggestions on how to talk senior leadership within an organization into making an investment of this type as it relates specifically to digital imagery? And that question comes to us from Lee, who works specifically in the beauty industry, but I'm sure that question applies across all of them.
Yeah, Lee, that's a fantastic question. Thank you for asking that. And that's something we hear all the time. Is like, how do I justify this investment? Well, I think one of the things that we can share with you at Curelate is we have many case studies or success stories of beauty brands that are working with us. I mentioned, I think I mentioned one of our Sigma Beauty. Yeah, I did mention Sigma Beauty, one of our cosmetics brands that we work with. We work with Revlon. We work with Sephora, any number of both retail and manufacturing brands that we work with. I think at the end of the day, you have to look at, what is your investment? How do you measure that investment in whether it's Instagram or Facebook or other channels? And frankly, some of this is you're going to have to make that case based on other examples or other data that you can use from either competing brands or similar brands that are like yours. And again, we can help you get started there because we do have published success stories that we can share with you. Many of them are available directly on the curelate.com website. So you can download those for yourself and start to review those. But, give us a call, give us an email, and we'd be happy to get you started in really exploring what's the best way to kind of sell this with an executive team and how to position this for success and really help turn you into a champion for your brand.
And out of respect for everyone's time, it is the top of the hour, so I'd like to turn the conversation back over to Sinan.
Great. So on behalf of the Internet Marketing Association and Curelate, our host, we'd like to thank all of our attendees for signing on and listening and engaging for the last hour, and most notably to Mike Brown for sharing real application and insights into how Mod Bargains has grown and used digital imagery over the years and the benefits they're now finding through the e-commerce aspects and looking at Curelate as a potential solution to that. We appreciate everyone's time. We'll be inviting you to future webinar series that we'll be doing, and thank you. So we'll end it there.
Ready to join the Internet Marketing Association? Membership is free at imanetwork.org/podcast. It takes less than 1 minute to gain access to research, education, and opportunities to move your career forward. Already a member? We'd love to hear your story. Introduce yourself at podcast@imanetwork.org for a chance to be featured on the show. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on I Am a Leader.